I won't say too much because Agency 1244 here doesn't want me stealing any of their thunder. But I'm going to say a few thank yous because there's been a lot of people involved in this project along the way outside of the classroom. So I wanted to thank those people. First of all, if you don't know me, I'm Jerry Bush. I'm the instructor in Journalism 406 this semester for the Palau project, Palau Climate Change Project. And first of all, I want to introduce our special guests for tonight, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. First of all, I'd like to introduce the Senior Public Health Advisor for Center of Disease Control and Prevention, Molly Mulhaney. Molly was with us in Palau, and she made things happen for us and set things up, and was just incredible, incredible asset. We couldn't have done it without her. Also with us today is Dr. Mark Keim. He is the Senior Science Advisor. And Mark is the head of the department that funded this project for us. So we're really happy to have both of our guests here tonight. I'd also like to introduce the students that made the trip to Palau. The two photographers and one advertising student are here with us tonight. Julia Rendelman is here. Jenna Ward. And Sarah Hubbs. And they did a terrific job. I think we ended up with 1,700 photos. I don't know how many hours of interview footage we had, but a lot. And we administered a 10-question survey to measure awareness too, which was a really nice thing for us. I also want to thank our friends in Palau that can't be here with us tonight, the people from the Ministry of Health. Dr. Stevenson Cuarte, the Minister of Health in Palau, who helped us tremendously while he was over there and give us a lot of direction for our campaign. Pearl Maramoto, just incredible help and assistance with us in the whole project over there. And a shout out to Sharp and Gafar and Deidre and Jane and everybody else. They were just the best host you could ever ask for in Palau. So hello to all of them, and I hope they get to see this video soon. And I'd like to thank everybody that's helping us here tonight. Mandy Daly and Chu back in the back are filming this for us tonight, so we can have this recorded and maybe some future classes can look back and see what a great presentation this is and how important the material that we're covering is. I'd like to thank Jack Pyatt for being teacher's assistant in this class. Jack had to handle the class while I was gone to Palau for 10 days and did a terrific job of keeping them in line, and the whole semester was just there for us every day. Some of you know and some of you don't. This is the first leg of a three-part project with CDC. The campaign you'll get to see tonight, and then we will also be doing a photojournalism book with all the photos and some editorial. Should be out probably by the end of next summer, early next fall. And we'll also have a website that contains all of the photo material and all the campaign material that you'll see here tonight. So it's a pretty extensive project, but it's well underway. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Hubbs, the president of Agency 1244, and we'll get the show underway for you.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. Before we begin, if you guys haven't turned off your cell phones, I would appreciate it if you did so now, just so there aren't any distractions with our campaign presentation. I also would like to introduce our entire agency to you this evening. We have Siania Allen, Shakari Burton, Nick Campese, Lauren Adele, Jeremy Garrett, Christina Kegner, Ariel Runyon, Kendra Torres, and Eric Wallace. Also from our agency and presenting to you this evening, we have Jeff Chandler, Lauren Fisher-Keller, our creative director, Julia Fromme, Cassie Keys, Andrea Likes, Brittany Shortfighty, and Rich Saratella. Our campaign took us on a journey to the small island country of Palau that's located in the South Pacific. It has a population of about 20,000 people, and this is just a map of it. This all started when the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention presented this whole idea of global climate change to us back in June. They introduced this to the Palau team, like Jerry mentioned, was myself, our instructor Jerry Bush, Julia Rendelman, and Jenna Ward. This issue is really surrounded by climate change. When most people think of it, they think of warmer temperatures and there being more hot days than cold days, but what our focus really had to be on was the fact that global climate change also is tied to a lot of health impacts, and you will see that throughout our campaign. We spent the summer preparing for it by having a lot of meetings and also conference calls and keeping in contact with the CDC and also people in Palau to make sure that we were on the right track for when we traveled there in September. In the fall, we introduced the entire project to our 406 class, where we developed a 10-question survey to be distributed when we traveled to Palau, and we also developed a set of interview questions to ask. We conducted our primary research from September 16th through the 27th, and this is when we were in Palau. We worked alongside the Ministry of Health, and they were great in setting up a lot of interviews for us and getting us in touch with the right people to make sure we covered all of the information that we wanted to. This top photo is how we started most of our days and finished them with meetings and, again, making sure that we were, getting on the right track and staying on that track. And then the bottom photo is our drawing and brainstorming board, which was very helpful, again, in making sure that we got everything covered. We kicked off the entire week with an event at the Palasia Hotel where a lot of health officials and just members of the community were there so we could introduce this campaign and entire project to them. We then spent the rest of the week conducting a lot of personal interviews with a variety of people. These interviews were with health officials, fishermen, farmers, tourism experts, and also media experts. We again asked a set of questions that were developed prior to our departure, and these included things, asking fishermen if they had seen a difference in fish distribution in the population, if there had been any crop damage that they had noticed as there was an increase in flooding and things like that. We recorded these via audio and video just to make sure that we could go back and, again, make sure we were accurate in everything that we were saying. Most of these interviews were done in Palauan. Most of the Palauans do speak English, but we asked them to talk in the language that was most comfortable for them. So again, recording these served a great purpose for us, so we could go back and make sure we got everything correct. Our findings, we found a lot of common concerns and, again, similar responses, and that, we will share with you in a little bit. We also administered a 10-question survey. Again, these questions were developed prior to our departure. It was distributed at random to 148 Palauans, and it was distributed by the Public Health Office actually after we left. And we received these results about 3 weeks after our return home. It was designed to measure the current awareness levels of people's awareness of climate change, and also it's tied to health. And it was also designed for easy post-campaign evaluation. Some of our findings, we asked if people were aware of climate change, and we found that about 45% of Palauans were in fact aware of climate change. We also asked how aware they were of climate change being tied to health events, and found that 80% ranged from being somewhat aware to very aware that climate change does impact their health. And we also wanted to measure their exposure to messages and how often they are reached with climate change media. So we found that 39% are only exposed to climate change messages about once a month, and some of them are actually not even exposed to messages at all. For our secondary research, we spent a lot of time, again, finding all these questions and answers from people, and decided that the 3 climatic events we wanted to focus on the most were extreme heat, sea level rise, and El Nino effects, and how these all impacted health. To represent the relationship between these events and their health impacts, we developed a matrix. You can see the climatic event here listed on the side, and then it reads across, so we have the results of the climatic event, the vulnerabilities and the risks that these climatic events pose, and also the resiliencies. After all of this primary and secondary research, we really settled on what we wanted to do for this campaign, and that was to raise awareness levels and educate Palauans on the health impacts that are related to climate change. Our campaign theme is Protect, Provide, Unite, and this was developed after an interview we had with Palau's Minister of Health, Dr. Stevenson Corte, and you actually will see some clips of that interview a little bit later on. In getting this campaign theme across to people, we did face some challenges, the first of which was our own mindset. As a class, we kind of had to get out of frame of mind that we were in and being in 2010. We had to treat Palau as though it was almost like the United States 30 years ago because we were dealing with a lot of different media. Their newspaper is huge. It's one of the most utilized mediums, and that's how everybody is reached. Internet, not so much. People do not have personal computers, and their access to it is very limited. So again, had to get out of the mindset that we were currently in, and how we would develop a campaign for the United States was very different for how we had to develop it for Palau. However, we were able to kind of overcome these challenges, and you will see that a little bit later on through all of our creative.
I'm Brittany, and I will begin talking to you about extreme heat, which is one of 3 climatic events that we chose to talk about in our campaign. Global climate change has been a very important area of study in recent years, and although most studies have been focused directly on global climate change, most of them don't relate to the health risks that come from global climate change. First, we'll talk about crop damage. This is a main concern for the Palauans due to the extreme heat. It is causing low water supply and dry land, which can lead to wildfires. And the crop damage is very important to them because it concerns them because the taro crop, they depend on this very much, and it's very important to them. And in this picture on the top, this is heat damage to the taro crop. And below, you can see in this picture, there's grass growing in, and they're doing this now to shield the taro crop from the sun. The attitudes of the people are being affected by the low crop yield because they depend on the taro crop so much, and they're having to rely on food coming in, and they don't realize the health risks that are from this, and it's affecting their diet. Next, I want to talk about respiratory diseases. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, and bronchitis are on the rise in Palau due to the extreme heat. And the elderly population are at most risk to develop this due to their pre-existing conditions. Next, we'll talk about heat-related illnesses. Syncope is when a person loses consciousness and faints, and this is mostly due to lack of blood flow to the brain. Being outside and overheating causes syncope, and this is especially important in Palau because we know they're working outside and they're exposed to these hot temperatures, so they are most at risk for this, as well as those over the age of 65. Next, we'll talk about dehydration. This occurs when the amount of water exiting the body is greater than the amount being taken in. And for the Palauans, they are outdoors and they're being exposed to these hot temperatures, so they're constantly sweating, so it's harder for their bodies to keep hydrated. Lastly, we'll talk about heat stroke, and this is a more severe case of heat cramps and heat exhaustion from dehydration. It's considered a real emergency and can take the life of someone if it's not medically treated. And this is important in Palau because the medical sectors are not properly set up, so it's hard for them to seek the medical attention they need at times when they're experiencing respiratory problems and heat-related illnesses. Those at higher risks are infants, the elderly, athletes, and those working outside, such as the Palauans. So we want to stress that it's very important for them to make sure they're drinking large amount of fluids, wear cool clothing, and trying to plan their work day out so they're making sure they can work during the cooler parts of the day.